Here's a lesson on multiplying two binomials. So I got 4 examples set up here. Let's look at the first one. What we're going to do is we can look at this a couple of different ways. I like to refer to this as repeated distribution. So basically, we're going to take this 5x and we're going to distribute it into the second binomial. And we're also going to take this 8, which happens to pair up with that negative. So negative 8 distributed into that same second binomial. So we're going to get 4 pieces. So 5x times 2x. I'm just going to write that out. 5x times 2x, and then 5x times a positive 4. I think about the sign here, so that's going to end up being a plus 5x times 4. And then I have a negative times a positive, so it's minus 8 times 2x, and then minus 8 times 4. Let's do our multiplications. So each is its own little problem. 5 times 2 is 10. X times x is x squared. 5 times 4 is 20. Keep the x. 8 times 2 is 16. Keep the subtract and keep the x. And then 8 times 4 is negative 32. Am I done? Sometimes I will be. Sometimes the answer will have 4 terms. And sometimes, like this case, we will get common variables, same exponent, also known as like terms. Once we combine like terms, we will be done. So the 10x squared doesn't have a like term. The negative 32 doesn't have a like term, but 20x minus 16x is plus 4x. Now I'm done. Works the same way, even if we have some more complicated monomials. So I'm going to distribute the 9x squared y. So 9x squared y times 3x squared y. And 9x squared y times 2x. They're both positive. Put a plus. Negative 7x times 3x. So it's going to be negative 7x times 3x squared y. And then negative times positive, still negative 7x times 2x. Let's do our multiplications. 9 times 3 is 27. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th. Y times y is y squared. Plus 9 times 2 is 18. I've got 2 and 1 x's making 3 x's and 1 y. Minus 21. Again, 3 x's and 1 y. And then minus 14 times x, or x squared. And once again, I have common like terms. I have 18 and negative 21, which combine to be negative 3. Keep the exponents and the variables the same there. I don't need that 1. Drop down the negative 14x squared. Drop down the 27x to the 4th y squared. And we're done that problem. We can't combine any further. Okay, this one looks reasonable comparatively. Let's do 6x times 6x squared. Now, if you're to the point where you can just kind of think about this and say, hey, that's 36. X squared times x squared should be x to the 4th. We can save ourselves a little bit of work there and not have to write it out. Now, if you're still not quite comfortable with that, that's fine. Write it out. We have plus 6x squared times 5. And then we're dealing with the second piece, negative 5 times 6x squared. That's going to be a minus. And negative 5 times 5. Now we can multiply. Here's 36, x to the 4th. Here's plus 30, x to the 2nd. Here's minus 30, x to the 2nd. Look at that. And then minus 25. I actually did that on purpose. So when we combine these two like terms, they're exactly opposite each other, so they cancel each other out. So we end up with 36x to the fourth minus 25. Now we have one more problem, and it's squaring a binomial. Now the biggest mistake I see is people just square this, square that. But if you've learned something from this, hopefully you learned that there's going to be a couple middle terms here. So I'm just going to write it out. There's a shortcut to this, but that's not what we're learning today. But basically, if you have something squared, it is times itself. So I'm going to distribute the 3x squared y, 3x squared y times 3x squared y, plus, they're all positive, so everything's going to be positive, 3x squared y times 2x y to the fifth. Then, different color so it's a little easier to see. That's not a great color. Let's try, green will stand out. Distribute the 2xy to the fifth times 3x squared y, and 2xy to the fifth times 2xy to the fifth. So there's a lot there, right? There's so much to see. It looks like it's daunting, but really we'll just do a little bit at a time. So if we look at this first part, 3 times 3 is 9. X squared times x squared is x to the fourth. Y times y is y squared. Next chunk. 3 times 2 is 6. There's 3 x's. There's 6 y's. Next piece, 6 x cubed y to the sixth. And then plus 4 x squared y to the 10th. Remember, I'm adding the exponents for each of those variables. And then noticing that these are like terms, combine those two, 12x to the third, y to the sixth. And when we're adding these, notice that the exponents don't change, right? Just the coefficients change. And then 4x squared y to the 10th, done. And that's multiplying binomials.